Hello, everybody. Can you hear me all right? Everybody all right? Excellent, excellent. So I wanted to first thank everybody for inviting Catholic Charities to have the opportunity to come and share some information with you today. Just as a reintroduction, so again, my name is Jesse Trentini. I'm the program director of the Martha and Mary House. The Martha and Mary House is the Cambria County Emergency Homeless Shelter. I've been there for about 5 years, and I'm here today to represent both Catholic Charities of the Altoona Johnstown Diocese, as well as our executive director, Cindy O'Connor, who's not able to be here today. But I am going to take some time today to kind of go over what it is that we do at Catholic Charities, what our mission is, what our focus is, and of course, what services that we're able to implement into the community and the range of that across our service area. Because a lot of individuals in our local community here in Johnstown, they know Catholic Charities, they know our office here in town, or in the Blair County side, they may know of our office in the Blair County area in Altoona. But we are a subsidiary of the entire Altoona Johnstown Diocese, which covers a broad area. So let me go my next slide here. So again, as far as locations, like I said, the Catholic Charities would be a subsidiary under the Altoona Johnstown Diocese. The Altoona Johnstown Diocese covers 8 counties. We will be covering each one of those individually here in a moment, but for right now, we have 3 physical locations. And so these are our 3 physical locations that we operate services out of or provide services within. So the first 2 would be our Blair County and our Cambria County office. Our Blair County office is right downtown near the cathedral. Thank you. The big cathedral that's downtown Altoona. We're located right in front of there. And our Cambria County office is located right down here on Main Street. These are our offices that we provide our administrative support out of. We do our emergency financial assistance, and I'll get more into detail with that in a moment. But they are our 2 headquarters. And then we also have the physical location of the Martha and Mary House, which is going to be our shelter facility that we have here in Johnstown. We're located on Bedford Street, 899 Bedford Street here in town. Catholic Charities has been the caretaker of the emergency shelter contract and service continuum since 2015. So we are in our 8th year there. We operate that facility within Cambria County, but I'll get into more details about our other continuum here in the next slides. So first of all, who we are as far as a mission statement here. So Catholic Charities Incorporated, again, is a subsidiary of the Roman Catholic Diocese of Altoona Johnstown. So that's going to cover our 8-county area. We are a non-government, private, faith-based, not-for-profit ministry, and we serve Bedford, Blair, Cambria, Center, Clinton, Fulton, Huntington, and Somerset counties. And we have been doing so for over 75 years. And I wanted to make sure and stress this because, again, a lot of familiar faces in the room and people that may interact with us, they know us for our Cambria services and our Blair services, but just as our diocese stretches across county lines and covers an entire area, our charities as well do cover that same area. While we don't have necessarily physical infrastructure and offices in all counties, we do, through our team, have the capacity to provide service in one way, shape, or the other, or assist individuals in locating and securing services who are within this entire network. So it is a bigger area. So I want to make sure to stress that to everybody, and we are definitely continuing to work within Catholic Charities to fulfill our abilities within the network which is provided to us. So, we all, like I said, we have these satellite or these kind of anchoring facilities here in Cambria and Blair County, but it doesn't put up boundaries for what service and care we're able to provide outside of those counties in our more generalized services. So our mission, we're looking at our mission statement here. So our mission is to assist individuals and families facing an immediate crisis with consultation, coordination, and seeking appropriate solutions. And so we have a very kind of a dual role in the way that we present and the way that we administer services within the community. Of course, we have internal services that we can offer. If it's our emergency financial assistance through one of our either our Blair office or our Cambria office, or we can assist with utility assistance, shut-off notices, different housing-related issues that may arise, and we can get creative and even look into situations that may be very specific to the person, and maybe not something that necessarily fits into a specific service curriculum or service continuum. So we're able to work with the individual and identify the individual needs of the participants that come and work with us. And then we're able to, to the extent of what we can, match our services to be able to fulfill that specific need. The other side of it is our consultation and coordination. So if somebody's contacting us for services, our mission and our focus within our ministry and our faith services, or faith-centered services, is to be able to provide them some semblance of assistance regardless of our individual capacity to do so. So if that means that they're contacting us for a need that we simply don't have an internal program to meet, then we're going to make sure that we also work within the community, work with our partners to be familiar with everything of the services that are within the community, familiar with what's available to the community, so that we can make the appropriate connection. So we never want to leave somebody, at the other end of the phone without some sort of direction or solution. So this is where we kind of have that dichotomy of either providing them direct firsthand services with us, through us, or providing them a roadmap into kind of getting their situation stabilized through a better matched service or better matched service provider. We spend a lot of time educating the community about active critical social justice issues and needs. We focus heavily on data collection. We spend a lot of time in the community with the individuals that are at risk and at need, with our locals, trying to make sure that we're identifying what's going on, what are the needs of the community, what are the surpluses of the community, what are the things that we can do to fulfill gaps that we may see within the community, and having an up-to-date and current picture of that at all times is what's important. As a lot of us, I'm sure, have been lifelong residents of the Johnstown or Cambria County area and localized, and we can see how over not just, of course, the decades, but even from month to month, how our community really ebbs and flows. Things change, the needs of the community change, the people within the community change. And with that, we have to have the ability to be flexible and adjust. And so we spend the time to make sure that we are always up to date with what's going on, what's available, and targeting those specific needs that are active now to make sure we're having the most efficient approach to service coordination and implementation. We also advocate for policies that enhance human dignity to ensure basic human rights and their universal accessibility. So a lot of the work that we do also encompasses individuals who are at a point in their life where they're experiencing some sort of a significant need, but they very well may not know exactly how to navigate that or exactly what step to first take to get to a point of stability. And so our job is a lot of times not just pointing them in one direction and not just saying, you're this, so I'm going to provide you with this. We're going to look more so to the specific individual. For example, if an individual is experiencing some form of housing disruption can't always be focused on as the absolute central core of what's going on with the individual. There's a very good chance that housing disruption is part of it. Maybe they're having issues with their rent or having issues with the utility that's causing some instability, but maybe there's more behind that. Maybe it's a lack of appropriate basic care measures that they need to have put in place. Maybe they need a more secure mental health resource network. And so we work to advocate for them and get the most sustainable and client-centered intervention that we can in place for them. Because we always try our best to make sure that we're not putting individuals into a place that's not going to be sustainable or not going to be something that they can maintain. So we want to make sure that we solve all of this, or not all, but we want to focus on the systemic issues around every case to be able to create the best and most comprehensive response, regardless of who comes to us. So a speaking further on that, we talk about acts of mercy. So assisting vulnerable populations with compassion and empathy, and with focus on setting free of setting free of bias, judgment, and discrimination. So while we are a faith-affiliated organization, we absolutely serve any individual that's going to come to our door, any individual that's going to contact us and reach us out for help. We are going to serve them not only to the furthest extent of our ability, but also to their individualized and specific. And again, that's not always us being the one that's going to be providing the shelter bed. It's not always going to be us being the one that's going to administer the service, but we for sure are going to be part of that process the whole way through, even if we have to bring in one of our stakeholders or one of our support providers. And networking and being a part of the network is very, very near and dear to us, because when we operate an organization that focuses on universal accessibility of care for everyone that comes to us, we have to be able to bring in other resources that go beyond that which we can do. And so without them, we would not be able to. So we work a lot with community partnerships and coordinating and collaborating with them and trying our best to consult individuals through the care acquisition process to help them be best served. Because every single individual's being best served is going to look very, very different. Some principles that we'll go over. So we serve all persons who come to us in need, regardless of their faith, and we do not discriminate on basis of race, color, creed, ancestry, age, sex, national origin, handicap, or disability. So again, our core focus is universal accessibility. Whenever you have any lapses in accessibility to your service for the population of which you're going to serve, then you're not universal. There's lapses, there's gray areas, the population is not going to be able to be served. If we create a universal accessibility and we target everybody as being equally qualified for the need, equally qualified for the services we can provide, we can create this uniformity. We listen to our clients actively and with respect who they are in vulnerable situations and or lacking resources. So again, we're meeting our clients where they're at. We are sculpting our response and our case planning around that individual client and exactly what they need. And that may be the one, sometimes we have to be the one that says, yes, this is the direction to go. Sometimes that means it's telling the individual, no, that's not the direction to go. But either way, it is making sure we are listening to them and taking them into the process of best suiting their needs and addressing them. We help to the best of our ability to assist with emergency financial services to those without access to basic needs such as food, electricity, heat, water, and emergency shelter accommodations. So again, we have our emergency financial offices out of Blair County and Blair County and Cambria County. And out of those offices, we can assist with a variety of different financial related needs. A lot of individuals know us for our utility assistance, but we can do different things such as we often in Cambria County, we run into situations with a transient population just because of where we're located and the current dynamics within the state. And so we may be able to be in a position to get that individual where they need to be and get them back into a support system. We may be in a situation where somebody just needs that one little thing to get them past that bump to be able to be stable and get to their next step. And if we can assist that, we absolutely will. And we advocate for the voices of the marginalized and at risk to assist them in their journeys for self-sufficiency. We spend a lot of time with our individuals and with our clients. We're talking with them. We're building relationships with them. We're knowing them whether we're serving them or not. Just because we serve them at one point in time doesn't mean that we're not going to still stay in touch with them. We have all the individuals that we may recognize from around town, or we may recognize from certain places or situations. And we try to be as much as possible a voice for them when there's times when they don't have a voice. And that includes individuals who are going through a transitional process. If they are in a hardship and they're working through whether that be a legal related situation, like they're coming out of the justice system, or a medical related situation, like they're transitioning out of a care setting back into the community, Whatever that may be, we're going to advocate for them and not progress forward or, settle things or make compromises until we ensure that that specific person's needs are advocated for and addressed. And lastly, we care by serving persons and families in need with compassion, dignity, equity, and empathy. And so, and as a ministry, we advocate as much as possible to find a solution to situations. So again, so much of the work we do is finding those solutions and working with individuals to determine what that solution is going to be. In the realm of health and human services, a lot of times solutions or problems and solutions kind of end up acting almost as pegs and holes. You have an individual who has a need and they got to fit into that peg and fit into that hole. And not everybody's peg is going to fit into that same hole. And so we have to do work to make sure we determine exactly what is the best course of action to get them into a niche of care that fits them. Because you can force a misshapen peg into a hole, but that does not create long-term sustainability and efficiency of care. It needs to be something that is for them, and that's cornerstone focus for us, regardless of who that person is and what that person's need. So I'm going to go over just a little bit more detail. That was more so talking about our general mission and our general service continuum within Catholic Charities. But I do want to go over a little bit more detail about our actual shelter facility, the Martha and Mary House. So the Martha and Mary House, we titled the Cambria County Emergency Homeless Shelter Program. And again, it is operated by Catholic Charities as a subsidiary of the diocese. We provide shelter, safety, and support to the housing compromised individuals and families of Cambria County. We've been doing so since 2015. We use the wordage of housing compromised because we're not just assisting individuals who are homeless. We are assisting individuals who are having any degree of housing disruption. That may be providing them advocacy if they are facing some sort of an unjust eviction. That may be navigating issues that are limiting their new housing option. Maybe they're transitioning into a new subsidized housing setting and they unfortunately have some sort of a backed bill or a backed irregularity within their records that needs to be worked out before they can do so. So we can help and coordinate externally and internally by admitting them into the shelter. So just because we don't admit them into the shelter always does not mean that we cannot still be their provider and their coordinator through this episode of disruption they're experiencing. Homelessness is very much, like I said, a symptom. It's a part of something else. And so if we just focus on the symptom, we're not curing that illness that's behind it. So if we focus on curing that illness that's behind it, as well as treating the symptoms, then we're going to get the most holistic approach to getting the situation remedied, which is going to reduce the chance of it happening again, which again is our other major priority, is making sure if we're going to stabilize and we're going to do the work to get someone stabilized, that it is a permanent, sustainable option. So who does the Martha and Mary House serve? The Martha and Mary House provides shelter placement for actively homeless individuals and families who reside within Cambria County. You must be a resident of Cambria County for a minimum of 90 days prior to admission into the Martha and Mary House. And so what this is this is a protocol that has been in place at the shelter since the inception of the facility. The primary focus of the facility is having an emergency shelter option for our community of Cambria County and our residents of Cambria County. When you take away, and I'm speaking again only from the emergency shelter standpoint, as the emergency shelter provider. When you take away some of those boundaries, it starts to blur the line and the definition of exactly what an emergency shelter is. So is it a resource to serve those community members who are experiencing emergency, or is it just happen to be a place that people can stay that just happens to be located within the community? We focus on striving on being a community and Cambria County centered service, so we maintain this boundary of a residency clause. It also ensures that the service is available at all times. We would never want to be in situations where we have locals, whether they be, homeless due to an ongoing situation, or maybe it's acute, such as a fire or some sort of internal issue within the house that causes them to be homeless. We always want there to be an option for them. And if we open up the boundaries and we allow anyone to utilize the service, then there's a good chance that they're not going to have an opportunity to utilize shelter when the time comes around for them to need it. So always focusing on, again, this is just with the Martha and Mary House. We have the full service area of the Catholic Charities overall. But the Martha and Mary House is a Cambria County focused, Cambria County oriented program focusing on our housing compromised population and the stability of them and the stabilization of them to the best of our ability. Our admission requirements. So you must first of all be actively homeless on the street. So I know it's a little bit of a crude way of saying it, but we've utilized the HUD definitions of homelessness. So active homelessness would be HUD category 1. This is that you are actively homeless and having utilized and expressed all other options, and you are more or less that if you do not receive shelter through an emergency shelter provider, you would be on the street. You have exhausted all options. It's either shelter or nothing. And that's active street homeless. That's going to be the highest, most severe level. There's also individuals that we'll work with that fall into the other categories. Category 2 would be imminent homelessness. So that's going to be somebody that we may provide consultation with to be able to assist them through the process of remedying the eviction that's coming up, stopping the eviction if we can, getting their utilities sorted out. And then in category 3 and category 4, we look into domestic violence sheltering, and we look into post-institutional sheltering. So someone coming from a hospital or someone coming from a jail and things like that. So while we do interact with individuals that would fall into all of these categories, the shelter we see as the highest level of care. It's you're dealing with the most significant and severe situations where it's a matter of safety, and so we focus on the active homelessness. And the other thing is we never want to create an episode of homelessness. There's many times where individuals may be experiencing something causing them to be imminently homeless. Maybe they have a utility bill that they can't pay, and so they're in violation of their lease and they're at risk of eviction, or any other reason that they may be at risk for eviction. Individuals have a tendency to react to stress like that in a very aggressive format, and they'll immediately want to leave that stressful situation behind and locate a new option of housing. But sometimes that's creating homelessness, because sometimes we can still salvage what's left, or we can preserve or repair that resource so they don't have to become homeless. And so if we can prevent the homelessness and we can keep the people out of the shelter, that's our #1 goal. I tell the residents all the time, no one wants you here less than me. I want you out in the community. I want you reintegrated. I want you to be having everything you need to be independent. Further on, all clients must be current residents, again, of Cambria County, with 90-day Cambria County residency from each party applying. So what we will normally do is we'll verify that using their ID. So if they have an ID showing that they are a resident of the county and there's a date on there showing that they've been in the county for 90 days, we'll utilize that for verification. But there's a wide variety of different things we can use. We can use county assistance or housing authority related paperwork showing that they are attached within the local service network. Utility bills, medical documentation, anything that's going to be formal, showing who they are, and that they have been residing in the county for at least 90 days. But we don't take things like written referrals or written references for residency and things like that. We keep it pretty strict that it's a third-party formal document. And again, that's so an individual can't be in a situation where they're driving across the state and they run out of gas and they have the resources in their pocket to take, to deal with the situation and handle the crisis, but they may call the shelter because it's an option, a free place to stay. And so we got to put those boundaries in there, because if you let those protections down, then you compromise the integrity and availability of the service for the community. As I said, I already talked about a couple examples of documents that we can take. If you are a provider, the best thing that we can recommend is, if you're going to be making a third-party referral to us, have the residency verification ready to go at the time of the referral. And I'll talk more here at the end about how you can make referrals, but having this information up front saves a lot of time and efficiency, because we're able to verify it, and we can do our last checks and issue a decision. When these things get held up or we don't get the verifications we need, then it causes us to have to delay our decision-making and process, which can then delay the initiation of services. Next up, after we verify the residency, we got to do a background check. So this was something very much the community was a big part of during the initialization of the shelter program back in 2013 to 2015. We do a full background check, and we are looking for any charges that are of a violent nature, so assault and battery, any charges of a sexual nature, or any charges that are currently active and unresolved. So that would be if they have a warrant, that would be if they were awaiting sentencing or arraignment or court or something along those lines, because we want to ensure that they are legally stabilized prior to taking them through the process of permanent supportive rehousing them. Because if we would go through the process, get everything set up, get them stabilized, get them acquainted into their new stability, only for them to end up having to go back into jail or going back into a legal situation, that undoes all of that, which does not only is inefficient from a managerial standpoint and nonprofit standpoint, it's also inefficient from a care standpoint. We don't want to send people through cycles and loops and drag them through more than they need to. The shelter is fully ADA accessible. However, it is a non-medical facility. So we're different from a personal care home. We can't provide any hands-on care. We can't assist with bathing or dressing and things like that. All forms of hands-on care must be able to be provided by the individual. So they must be able to care for themselves. They must be able to get themselves food prepared. They must be able to get themselves around. Again, we assist with these things. We provide the roadmap. We provide the coordination of medical transport or whatever it may be. But we need to verify that this individual is able to meet their own basic needs in the absence of somebody who is somebody there to do it. So we don't want to get into situations where we have somebody who, say, is maybe bedbound, or somebody who has a very significant intellectual impairment, that putting them into an independent facility like ours is setting them up for any sort of risk or setting them up for any sort of setbacks. So we always want to make sure we are assessing the individuals to make sure that they are medically and functionally at a level of which we can meet their needs. Never want to place somebody whose needs we can't meet into our care, as it would be unsafe for all parties involved. Residents to maintain compliance with all established internal and external services in order to remain in place and at the shelter. We use the adage, we will draw the roadmap for you, and we will point you in the directions, and we will show you where all of the necessary stops are, but you have to be the one with the hand on the wheel and the foot on the gas. And so if we do that for individuals and they make the choice not to, then there's a chance that we may transition them out and transition an individual into that program slot who is going to do that. It's just as simple as making sure that the program is being used efficiently. And we all know that there are always situations where there are consumers who we simply, we jump through as many hoops and do as much as we can to get the intervention in place, but there's just not something that's going to work for that person. And if we try our best and unfortunately it still doesn't work, then we may need to move forward. So compliance is something that we monitor and measure and review on an ongoing basis to make sure the individual is holding up their end of the bargain. It's a no strings attached program. As long as they meet the qualifications, they come in and they're provided service. But in return, we need respect, we need compliance, and we need follow-up. And so that's the level of structure and accountability that we put into the program to make sure that it is more than just a place to lay the head. And it is a place where care and transition and assistance occurs. So more or less, that is an overview, a broad overview of what we do. There's contact information that you're welcome to take pictures of if you need to, or if you, I know that it should be in your flyers as well. Again, Cindy O'Connor is the Executive Director of Catholic Charities. She's not here today, but her contact information is listed up here. And I'm the Program Director of the Martha and Mary House. So the two of us work together a lot within the agency and getting out in the community and working with our partners and everything like that. And I do just want to take one moment when I wrap up here. Back in the corner here is our Catholic Charities team, our case managers, our staff, our support staff. If you could give me some assistance in giving them a hand, I would greatly appreciate it. Any questions? Yes.
The past violent or sexual happenings, is that forever, or is it like within the last so many years or something?
So we do try to keep as concrete of boundary as possible with it, but we do things on a case-by-case basis. So as a broad example, you know, if it is something like an attempted homicide or something very, very significant, then that's more or less going to be becoming a permanent disqualifying factor. But we also understand, you know, if it was an 18, you know, if this individual is, you know, in the middle of life and at 18 years old, they got a simple assault charge for, you know, getting on a fight coming off the bus, we're going to look into that. So, you know, we do the background check to get a broad overview, and then we never just say, you know, oh, you're done. You know, we'll work with the individual and say, what happened to you? Help me understand. Because we're also tracing back to make sure that there's nothing hanging around that's going to interrupt the care that we're putting. Thank you.
And so, prior drug conviction, active case.
Yes, no, drug, as long as it's not, the only times we've ever run into situations where it's been a drug-related charge, and again, this is very rare, would be like a burglary with drugs and bodily harm all wrapped into it. Okay. Other than that, no violence. No, yeah, as long as there's no violence, not at all. So yeah, and I don't care how bad the drug charge is, felony, misdemeanor, it does not matter.
Or as capacity, number of kids matter.
Sure. Oh, thank you. So our facility is, we have 15 beds. Our occupancy permitted for 16, but we keep 15. And how that distribution works out is we have a male and a female dorm. Each one can take 4 single males or 4 single females. We then have a family room, and that is a private family room, and that can accommodate 1 family, which would be an adult and up to 5 children. Sometimes it can be case by case, like if the distribution of ages on the children. Sometimes, you know, if they're all too young to be on the top bunk, then we have to get creative. But we do have, we have a crib and things like that. So we have alternative accommodations as well. And then downstairs we have our ADA room, which can also, in certain circumstances, double as a small family unit. So maybe like a parent and a teen child or something like that. So 1 room is always designated for family, and it's 1 family at a time. But we do sometimes have the option of bringing in a second smaller family, but the ADA need always takes priority because of that part of the building being specified for ADA content. Any other questions? 24 hours a day. Yep, we are. So we do not do intakes 24 hours a day. There is somebody there. There is one of my staff members or myself are there 24 hours a day. We take referrals 24 hours a day. And this, actually, thank you for reminding me, this will go ahead and wrap up. Referrals can be done 3 different ways. You can fax them to us if you really want to if you want to send paper referrals to us. You can call us 24 hours a day to do the referral over the phone. The only thing is if you are a third-party provider and you're referring somebody to us, that person needs to be on the phone when you call. So what's that?
What is the person is what?
If you say you're called, say you run into somebody at Sheets that needs shelter and you're helping them get in touch with us, that I got to talk to that person. So I can't talk through somebody. Same thing with providers. So you can call, or you can visit CatholicCharitiesAJ.org. So just like, see how it says dioceseaj.org on our CatholicCharitiesAJ.org, and we have an online application that can be completed. And you can complete the application for both emergency homeless services and all of our other generalized services. So you can complete it on there and hit submit. It comes directly to leadership's email, so we have direct access to it, and then we can utilize that. So we do admissions. We are in the process of hopefully expanding our availability of hours to do admissions. It's in the process, so I don't want to give any specifics there until we have that ironed out. But currently, we do intakes Monday through Friday between 9 a.m. and 7 p.m. And we do have the capacity to do like an emergency admission, like a last minute, but we try to stray from that if we can, and we try to do as much pre-coordination as possible, unless, you know, it's a situation. So the furthest in advance that we can know that a need's coming, the better. Yes, so the limited time that people can stay is 30 days. So they can stay with us for up to 30 days. And I know that timeline seems a little tight, but we always remember that we're wanting to keep within the definition of the emergency shelter, because when you start extending the timelines, then you start getting into kind of different wordage and transitional and things like that. So focusing on the definition of emergency shelter, it's 30 days. And we do have a set program within our curriculum that if a situation were to arise requiring somebody needing some additional support, let's give the example, they get their lease on day 27, but they have to wait 10 days to move in, then we will work with them and their landlord or whoever to accommodate that and provide them an extension. So those extensions are on a case-by-case basis, and they're not just a natural part of the curriculum. So they're only utilized in specific circumstances if they're warranted, just to make sure that we're keeping efficiency within the facility.
As providers, if just there is availability before we give the info to our clients to be.
So the only thing that we will not release is we will not say if we have a bed available. And I know it's can be a little complex, but the reason that we don't say yes, we have availability is because we can say that to somebody and then hang up the phone, and then the phone rings and it's a family of 6, and then I just gave misinformation out. So what we try to do is, it's not that we withhold that information, we just always try to keep the information current in the most recent contact. So, you know, somebody may apply and they may, you know, we'll say, what we always say is, we got your information, we're going to process your application, we'll be back in touch with you to let you know about the status of your application and our availability to assist. And we strive very hard in doing that within 24 hours. Well, sometimes when it's busy, it may take 48, but we do strive for a 24-hour turnaround period. And it is, I know what you mean, it can be a little bit of a tough spot without being able to disclose that information, but we've unfortunately run into so many circumstances where we have, and then that's caused another provider to coordinate a case, and then they come back to us and we no longer have that. So just making sure everybody is on the same page at the same time, we do withhold our exact availability until the coordination of intake. Anyone? All right, thank you so much.